Okay. Am I on now? Okay. Okay, welcome classified professionals to our AI panel. I'm very excited to be here. First, I'm going to introduce myself, have a little bit of housekeeping to mention, and then I have a couple things I want to share before we meet our panel. I'm Michelle Onstad. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the manager for library operations here at MiraCosta College. And I'm honored that I was asked to moderate this panel. Housekeeping. If you're in the room, please make sure your cell phone is on silent. And if you are live streaming and you have a question, what you want to do is go on Teams and send it to Melanie Haney or Joanne Gonzalez, and we will get those questions fielded. So thank you very much. AI. The first time I really encountered AI was October 2nd of 2018. I was in Tucson celebrating my mother-in-law's 80th birthday, and we were at a hotel. And I saw a conference that was being held at the same time, and it said special guest Sophia the robot. So I crashed the conference cocktail party and said, I want to meet Sophia. And I met Sophia, and I talked to her, and it was very surreal. She's an AI robot. You can follow her on social media. She goes all over the world. And also, by the way, I'd forgotten the date of when I met her, so I asked ChatGPT, and I had to correct it, but it told me when I met her. So that's kind of how that goes. My favorite AI tool is Goblin Tools. Goblin Tools is an AI app that was created by some neurodivergent programmers, and it's aimed at neurodivergent folks, and it's really cool. You can make a to-do list. You can ask it, how do I do laundry? It'll make a list of the steps, and you're like, I need to break these down more. You can ask it to break it down more. And there's other tools on Goblin Tools as well, but it's a really great tool for organizing to-do lists. And so I just wanted to mention that. And ChatGPT, I use it all the time. I make a list of what I have in my refrigerator, it gives me a recipe. I use it to write interview questions. But I edit them. I also asked it, what's the optimal string height for my new bass guitar? So you can ask it just about anything, and I correct it often. I put in my name, and it gave me information on me. Some of it was incorrect, and I said, no, that's not right. And then it dug deeper and found me. So anyway, so I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel for today. I'm going to read you their biographies. First, to the right of me is Susie Boynton. Susie serves as the Executive Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board for San Marcos Unified School District. She earned her bachelor's degree in accounting from Cal State University, San Marcos, where she developed a strong foundation in accounting principles. Susie is passionate about improving workplace efficiency through process enhancements, AI integration, and supporting the growth and development of her colleagues. She had the privilege of creating a professional development track for administrative professionals in her district, an effort that was recognized with the ASAP Impact Award and the Administrative Excellence in Public Service Award in 2024. Susie has also had the opportunity to speak at local and state conferences where she shares her experiences and insights on leveraging AI to enhance workplace operations. Welcome, Susie. Okay, and to the right of Susie is Jennifer Bielman. Jennifer is an administrative coordinator at Riverside City College with a passion for harnessing artificial intelligence to transform workplace efficiency in community colleges. Her journey into AI began at the Community College League of California Conference, where a session on leveraging ChatGPT in professional environments sparked her interest. Since then, Jennifer has become a dedicated advocate for AI-driven innovation, presenting at conferences across California to equip employees with the tools and knowledge needed to thrive in an AI-integrated workplace. She holds a Master's of Business Administration and is currently pursuing a doctorate in organizational change and leadership at California Baptist University. Welcome, Jennifer. And last but not least is my friend Cornell Rustin. Cornell serves as the Information Security and Infrastructure Director here at MiraCosta College, leading efforts to protect our digital infrastructure and ensure operational resilience. With a BS in Information and Computer Science, an MBA, and multiple certifications in security leadership, planning, and control frameworks, he oversees complex IT security initiatives, and they are very complex. Cornell is dedicated to advancing the college's technological capabilities by developing AI policies and secure AI-driven solutions to enhance efficiency. His work integrates innovation with regulatory compliance, aligning technology with organizational goals. Cornell also contributes to community and professional discussions, promoting responsible cybersecurity and AI governance in higher education. Welcome, Cornell. Okay, so we have a lot of questions to get through. The first thing we're going to talk about is more about context of AI. I asked the panel, how do you see AI currently impacting the operations and functions of community colleges? Who would like to start with that?
I'll start. Well, I think we're going to see a lot of the generative AI, right, where we're individually going into ChatGPT or applications like that and inputting prompts to help us with our daily work. I think that's kind of the big part of it right now, but AI is kind of already integrated in a lot of our systems. But the hope is that if it's not maybe in your college or whatever college is, that we're going to start seeing, scheduling being a lot easier, writing emails based off, common questions you might get and the answers that you give it. And so AI can realize that, oh, you've answered this a million times. Here, is this the right answer? Is this an email that I can send for you? Yes, please do. Like AI can do that. And I have actually seen that in action at different kind of corporations and places that I've talked to. Right now we have AI in Zoom, the companion, the AI companion, I think it's called. And there it's taking our minutes during our Zooms, and it's giving us a brief outline of what's been discussed, the action items, who said what, things like that. So really it's going to automate those tasks, and I've already seen that, but I'm hoping to see it a lot more as we move forward. But it also, I don't know, every kind of college is different, but it can be like have predictive analytics, letting us know which students are maybe failing and then giving them possible lessons plans to improve. So it's really going to help us, I feel, do our job better in general, because we're going to start seeing, we're going to be able to use it to first of all, cut down on time on automated tasks that don't matter. They do matter, but automated tasks that, are just kind of generic and something anybody can do, so that we can focus on kind of high level student engagement.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I almost think that once we get comfortable letting go of those nuanced tasks that we're used to just kind of like repetitively doing, I would argue that we get to transform and become strategic thinkers, right? So no longer am I looking at a schedule and wondering, does the time work here or does this work here? No, am I promoting, at least this is how I think of it, am I getting my boss to his goals? Because I serve my boss and a board. Am I helping him see through his goals as his assistant by strategy thinking, right? So now I'm getting rid of these not time savers, the opposite of that.
Right. Time, yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
I'm getting rid of those so that I can scale out and now start thinking strategically about value added things that I'm doing in my job, instead of just I'm putting 2 o'clock on the calendar. I'm doing this. I'm doing all these little things. Let the robots do it.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, do it. I want to think, how are we hitting our goals instead?
Right. Because it can't do the creative thinking that you need to employ when you're trying to solve problems, right? But it's a great use for the rote sort of tasks, as you said. So let's talk about classified professionals at community colleges specifically. Cornell, what is the general level of awareness about AI tools? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, I like to kind of what the experts are saying about AI outside, right? That's an important thing to kind of have some sort of a metric to measure where we are, right? So I don't know whether you've heard this thing. There are 3 acronyms that they use. One's called ANI, the other one is called AGI, the other one is called ASI. Now, what do these things stand for, right? So ANI is what you call the artificial narrow intelligence. So what that means is these learning systems, and I heard many, in the panel earlier too, they talked about algorithmic functions and so forth, right? So they can perform a specific task very well. That's the key thing. They are pretty much programmed, and they cannot go beyond the scope of what they can do, pretty much. So if you think about, for example, like Siri and Alexa and Google Assistants, those are kind of voice recognition and response systems. As well as ChatGPT is obviously it's a language model, right? You can put natural language and they process it and gets the data back. They also recommendation algorithms, like if you go to Netflix or YouTube, what's working behind that is the AI models that they have. And also if you talk about autonomous driving, self-driving cars, that is another area that kind of fits into that model pretty much, right? So they are very, as I said, they are very, very specific for the tasks that they have to do. Now, when we talk about AGI, that's the artificial general intelligence. So what that is you have come to a point that these systems can independently think. You don't need to train them, and they can perform certain things.
Is that like where ChatGPT has kind of a therapist mode now, where you can put in there, I'm not feeling very well today, and it starts asking you things and comforting you? Is that an example of AGI?
Yeah, ChatGPT 4 is at their infancy stage on AGI. There is also some other things called, I think if I remember right, there are things, there are other programs as well that they use, but experts say they're speculating it might take even 10 to 50 years to catch up to that kind of definition of AGI.
I see.
Okay. So the third one is I like, that's called the artificial superintelligence. It's like, okay, you know everything, right? I'm going to take over, right? That type of a thing. And, this can be really, if you think about it, in science fiction, you can think about, if you've seen HAL 9000, the Space Odyssey 2001.
That's right.
So that kind of fits that kind of model as well as for example, if you have seen Terminator, Skynet.
Yes.
So it can be you can help the humans, or you can you can destroy the humans, that type of thing, right? So it's kind of important to understand these kind of levels where we are, and these the ASI is, they don't even know they can even achieve it at this time. Those are the expert. They speculate that, or they have their opinions on that. So yeah, and it's very interesting to kind of understand these levels, so we can actually kind of figure it out. What's happening right now? Where is ChatGPT and so forth? So this also kind of can address the issue of your whether you will be displaced, right? Rules, and so that is another thing we can kind of figure it out. But with that, I'll any other.
Yeah, in fact, we'll get to that when we talk about challenges and concerns, the whole fear of our jobs being replaced. So among the three of you, do you hear other classified professional colleagues talk about that they're aware of these AI tools, but perhaps they're not comfortable with them, or they want more understanding before they dive into that? And have you had conversations with colleagues about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think you're going to have knowledge gaps based off of whether or not and when you embraced AI. I mean, I think back to a year and a half ago when I actually gave my first presentation, and I was actually fearful that I might have executives come to me after and say, stop talking about this. This is too too progressive and I want you to stop. So just having an understanding that we all have our experiences with AI in different forms and at different times, and that they're all okay. You're going to go through that journey on your own of learning, but it's here, and so it's your turn to take, the initiative to figure out what your relationship is with AI and how you can utilize that in your job and for your future and for your kids' future too, your students here.
And to not be afraid to try something.
Right.
I think there's a lot of fear around it too. Any comments?
Yeah, I wanted to mention, I think because I kind of call it like we're in the Wild West phase of AI. You know what I mean? I mean, it's been here since the 1950s, but still we're seeing it more like personal computers. We knew about computers, but then all of a sudden we had one in our home, right? So we're starting to see it on our, in person at our desks. And because we don't have a lot of policies in place, there's not a lot of law related to it. And a lot of colleges are not talking about it or just barely talking about it, even though our state chancellor has said this is like one of my 3 goals for this year is to integrate and understand AI for our students, because they're going to come into a world where AI is normal at that point. They're going into an AI infused job market. So it's really our job to make sure they're prepared for that. So I kind of get that kind of being a little afraid of, first, is it going to displace me? And I know my audio sounds weird, but first, is it going to displace me? Or am I, if I'm helping students with it, am I doing a bad thing? Because our college hasn't really set guidelines and parameters. So, and that's okay. Again, we're in that Wild West phase. We're figuring things out. That's why open communication is important, so that we know how can we approach that. That's kind of the scariest part, is because when I'm talking to my colleagues, some of them are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. I'm like, well, I don't care, because what are they going to do? I mean, really, because this is the future. So let them come to me and I'll say, great, then let's start putting a plan together. Let me not be the only one bringing it to the school. Let's start putting a policy together. Please involve me, because everybody needs to have a seat at that table.
Thank you. Let's move on to our next category of questions, and that's practical applications of AI and enhancing workflows. And I know you talked about this a little bit in the intro panel, but let's talk about some specific ways AI can streamline the daily tasks of classified professionals, such as in admissions, financial aid, or student services. And I see that in the library, that we have applications for matching students with technology and things like that. So what are some specific ways AI can work for us classified professionals?
I took notes for this one specifically because I wanted to make sure to hit, because this is what I'm excited about, is the integration and the actual streamlining of our processes, which I think is going to take time. Right now, I think most of us are using it, again, with those applications where we're inputting prompts. But again, some AI has already been integrated. We don't even realize how much it's been integrated. But what I like when it comes to Mission, it's going to really automate the application process. It can notify students of any missing documents or deadlines, things like that. You have those chatbots. A lot of us already have chatbots on websites that help students, but then we could have even more integrated chatbots for specific departments. The last panelist talked about PlayLab. I was also part of that beta testing of PlayLab. I've created a chatbot for administrative tasks like processing documents and putting requisitions in, because I have that data. Why not put it into a bot and say, hey, within my not on the download, but in essence, maybe put it as a link in my email, so that way people go, oh wait, so there's and then maybe all admins can do that, right? And then it's like, hey, if you ever want to see, if you're asking who the Dean of Student Services is, or you're asking what do I do when I'm putting this requisition in, try that PlayLab chatbot first. Our travel system can concur. We just put that manual in a whole PlayLab chatbot, and now people can actually ask those questions. Now, of course, there's going to be that human touch or specific, kind of wonky areas that we're not going to be able to address when it comes to chatbot, but it eliminates those basic front-level questions. Now, when it comes to financial aid, you kind of think about it can analyze applications for errors or flag incomplete forms and let the student know. It can recommend scholarships based off the student's profile and their background. I thought that was amazing. Student services, we're talking about appointment scheduling and matching counselors and students based off their major or based off their career path. earlier alert systems, I mentioned flagging students that maybe, failing classes, things like that, creating plans for them. That can all be AI generated, but again, it's going to have that human touch. But the point is, it's kind of it helps eliminate some of that time it takes for that student to get that kind of service.
Interesting. Susie, can you share a couple more of the ideas that you shared in the earlier panel about streamlining daily tasks in your role?
Sure. So I'm trying to think of like a really good example for everyone. I mean, I think we're all utilizing it to create customized emails, that sort of thing. That's like kind of the easiest, quickest way. But like you mentioned earlier, you had a favorite app. I have an app that I use called Gamma. And Gamma helps us create ideas, create slide decks. And when I first got into it, I was so gung-ho. I actually reached out to the creator of Gamma and said, I really want to talk to you. I'm going to this conference and I want to show your app to everybody because I think it's brilliant. So tell me some of the things tell me what's like most important that people need to hear about your app or about this technology. And he said, this is for creating ideas beautifully. And people are more engaged when what they're looking at
Looks good.
it looks good. Yeah, exactly. And he's absolutely right. And so what I started to find is that like I don't need to be great at PowerPoint anymore. I don't need to go take classes to become a designer to make beautiful PowerPoints anymore. No, I'm using AI to upskill myself and what I can do faster. So if my executive asks me, hey, here's some content, I need a presentation on it by tomorrow, I don't have to, it's going to look fantastic because I'm utilizing the capabilities of AI instead of having to be, a
Moving
designer.
text boxes around and bullet points and all of that. Yeah.
Exactly. Let it do that, and then I can look over the scope. I can look over, like, does it hit the notes that my boss wants me, to have presented for the group, right?
Sure,
So
yeah.
I'm looking at that rather than trying to nitpick apart PowerPoint,
Yep.
right, and make sure that it looks nice.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on a little bit. Cornell, I want to ask you about data management. So, because you work in ITS and you have a lot of experience in topics such as this, so how can AI tools assist in managing large data sets, student records, campus operations?
Yes. So as I said, in this day and age, I'm sure most of you have heard about data warehouses, so where we can store all the data and so forth. So the first step in AI is actually collecting the right type of data. So the concept of garbage in, garbage out really
Yes.
matters in artificial intelligence, right? That's the key thing. Because if you don't train the models in a certain way, and of course, there will be lots of other questions that we can raise in the sense that biases and so forth. That's another topic.
Right.
But the important first step is to really organize and how do we retrieve this data. That's a key thing right here as well. So once we get that, so we have the baseline set up. Then in terms of really using AI for some of these things, so we can talk about optical character recognition, right? Basically the OCRs. We can actually scan apps and the AI actually can figure it out what are the missing areas. So for example, if you do an application or any financial aid form, what those things, they can actually see, oh, by the way, you don't have to go through all the stack of paper. It should come and say, by the way, for this student, these things are missing. We'll try to get those things and have an automated way of really communicating that as well. So one important thing for this is also, as staff, you can have more time to do other things, like have personal contact with the students, for example. That is a very important thing, to have those one-on-one contacts and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
So that is something that you can do. The other area is, I think someone mentioned also predictive analytics, right? Once you have the data, then you can actually see the trends. What kind of trends? For example, hey, is this class, we see a lot of enrollment for this class. How can we really allocate faculty for that, classrooms for that, scheduling? All those things can be, that is a function that I think we can improve with the data that we have collected, right? So, and also you can measure student success metrics as well, and also kind of figure it out, if there are anything that we can help the students in terms of tutoring or counseling, those areas as well, right? And also, one of the things that kind of from an operational side of things, we can also think about the energy use.
Yes.
How much energy is being used, when to turn things on, when to turn it off, that type of a thing. So when you have all this kind of information, it's much easier for us to really kind of use the system to do these kind of tasks.
Sure.
And so forth, right? Again, it can produce beautiful reports, for visualization. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something that you can do. Then last but not least is my area, data security and compliance.
Very important.
So we deal with lots of compliance requirements here, whether you talk about FERPA, GLBA, HIPAA, sieges for the police department, and also we have to comply with California Civil Code. I think it's 1798, and also the Chancellor's Office have a lot of requirements as well for us, right? So to make sure that that we have the proper access controls for some of these things. So AI systems can say, hey, based on a role, can this person access this data? Is it relevant for this person to look at social security numbers? If it's
Right.
not, if it's need to know, that's great. But if somebody else is looking at that, it can kind of flag and say, hey, this person does not need this access because of the role.
Sure.
That type of a thing. So, and also it also can detect like anomalies, right? One of the things that we are working with our systems right now is called impossible traveler. Now, what does that mean? What it means is, let's say a person logs in here on campus, and if you see a certain login from a different country, 20 minutes from now, it's not possible, theoretically.
Yeah.
So these are the things from a security perspective we can flag and say, AI can say, hey, we see these things. Maybe this is a potential attack that someone is trying to log into our systems and take corrective action.
And then there's the fraudulent enrollments,
Oh, yes. the
which is a
fraud
huge issue
major
for all
thing
of our,
as well.
our
Yes.
institutions right now.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about, Jennifer, you mentioned chatbots, I believe. And let's talk a little bit about communication tools. So chatbots and virtual assistants, how can they enhance communications with students, faculty, and staff? And are there risks of over-reliance on those tools?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it before. Those chatbots, Play Lab. You can create GPTs through ChatGPT and other applications, and it's gonna kind of increase that communication amongst each other. It will eliminate some of that human part of it, which again I think is important. But it kind of allows us to automate those common questions, things like that. I think when it comes to faculty, classified, students working together, just faculty and classified, it could help with the meeting minutes. Again, I was talking about when you're in meeting minutes, or when it comes to scheduling across faculty, classified, and administrators. It can look at everybody's schedule and give you an estimated date and time that would work for everybody, things like that. I do. I think there is risks of over reliance. Obviously, again, I mentioned those. It's a little impersonal. And we just got to make sure to have that continued personal touch. There's errors, misinformation, and things like that because those GPTs and those chatbots are going to do its best to answer a question, but they might not actually know the answer because of based off the data sets. So it's going to say, well, this seems kind of close. You know what I mean? And it's
Right.
yeah. And so we have to be careful of that. We're gonna have to analyze that data. We're gonna check for biases. There's a lot of going back and looking at the actual data sets to make sure that it's staying up to date. And sometimes I think it was mentioned before that responses may not fully address students with diverse backgrounds or things like that. So it's all those kind of concepts we have to take into consideration when creating those chatbots, especially customized for a community college.
Well, and I think of students who English is their second language as well, being accessible and also being accessible to students with disabilities. Susie, what's your take on this, chatbots, et cetera?
Yeah, I see it as an enhancement. You can now have information at your fingertips 24/7. So it eliminates needing to have a person there constantly. If students, need to look something up on your website early in the morning, or if staff needs to do that, they can do so and pull that information. So I don't know if you've been to a website where you're like, wow, I need to go here and find this one thing on this website. Which of the 25 tabs am I going to click and drill down into?
You mean like the DMV website,
Yes,
for example?
exactly. So how I see chatbots kind of improving the customer service experience is that I'm going to ask the question that that I would usually go to the website for, right?
Sure.
And I'm going to go, hey, I need to know, when does fall semester start? And so instead of trying to log through and get admissions and the dates for fall
Calendars.
I'm
and-
just going to, the chatbot is just going to go collect all that information for that person. And so that's a very quick answer to something that they just wanted to see, that they just needed, information for immediately.
Sure.
And then there's the option to switch. If you hit roadblocks, I would see like a benefit to saying, okay, now let's chat with a live person, right? You've hit so many roadblocks. We're going to move you over to a live person. And I think we all have kind of some experience with that already.
Yeah, I always have the frustrating person, representative,
Yes,
please. I think we've all experienced that as well.
Yes. So anyways, I see it as an enhancement to the customer service experience in getting people information quicker so they have access to their own time back.
Sure, and I think it takes time to train these bots to find the correct information. Because even here at MiraCosta, we have our bot on the front page, and I try it out occasionally just to see what it says about the library, and it's getting better for sure.
Yeah, and last night, I was actually, it's called the Ask Spartan.
Ask Spartan, right?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
what it is. So I asked certain questions. I said, I really want to know what is what's the, do you have a schedule for summer 2025? Okay, but it
yet.
came and told, not yet. Yeah, it came and said, well, sorry, we don't, but we do have these things for spring 2025 and the previous catalogs for 2024, 24, which is it's pretty great to Otherwise, a student may have to call and get this regular routine information, right?
Sure.
So that is something that I see in chatbots that you can improve to get the routine information, where we as staff can actually help the student in other complex areas, right? So that is something that I'm hoping that we can make use of as well.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to our challenges and concerns questions. So I'm sure that classified professionals in particular have concerns about our jobs going to be displaced, particularly if we work in an area that works with data. Are we going to lose out to too much AI in our jobs? What are the concerns that you all are hearing from colleagues about job displacement or role changes due to AI, and how can we address those concerns?
When it comes to like job displacement, we, obviously like administrative type tasks, things like that, it feels a little bit like, okay, but will people need me? And we know that's, of course they will. Again, it just changes the type of work we're doing, and it's eliminating some of that repetitive, tasks that we have to do. I think it'll actually kind of get us more involved, to be honest. But also, it's the scariness of like a role change. Kind of expecting us to learn AI and like have more technical skills. So there's always that challenge because some of us are more techie and some of us aren't, right? But the hope is that AI is obviously kind of leveling the playing field a little bit because it is very user friendly in a lot of ways. I think also we have to be careful of us not being classified, especially not being part of like the AI policy discussion and implementation. I think it's very important because we are the operations of the college. So not being a part of that is very scary because I think I have seen that in my college where a classified are not part of discussions and then that implementation fails because we really need to be, we know how to do the things, you know what I mean? And then also, not being provided that training and things like that. That's, like I would hope that like, this is amazing that your college is doing it. My college has not done anything like this, but to actually encourage training, maybe actually buying generative AI applications that everybody can use, providing workshops, things like that. So I think, again, when it comes to like addressing concerns, make sure to keep open communication, transparent communication, the data set, like what's actually going in and what's coming out. Make sure there's professional development opportunities and, start signing up for those pilot programs. I think pilot programs are an amazing way to start because we don't know how it's going to work and if it's going to be efficient. So let's make sure we have a few people trying it out first and kind of getting, kind of fixing those errors and making sure it's more efficient.
And I think we have to emphasize our touch in working with students. And I think that that's something that we should continue to highlight as classified professionals, that nothing replaces that one-on-one conversation with a student or comforting them or connecting them with a resource or the warm handoff, as we like to do here. We have the Caring Campus initiative where we work to make sure students are getting the support they need. And so maybe we emphasize all of that and our value to that. Susie, what are you hearing from other classified colleagues?
Well, I was just gonna, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I was gonna kind of add to what you said. I feel like it's really a shift in that AI is magnifying the skill set that we already have. It's us times information, right? Mm-hmm. It's not us versus AI. Our skills are amplified when we utilize AI.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's just sort of been a perspective that I've kind of always held. But I do value and see that there's other perspectives where people feel like, that it's going to replace you. And I don't feel like that's the case. And where were we?
Number 6.
Number 6,
Yeah.
Thank you. What was I going to say about, you said something that sparked something, but I just turned left.
That's okay. Well,
Squirrel.
Well,
I do that consistency. If you were here before, you saw that. And
well, those of us who've been around for a while, computers, like, in general in the workplace and word processing and all of that, and even the copy machine, there's just all this technology that comes forth that gets everybody worried about their jobs. And but I like what you're saying. We just need to be part of the conversation, emphasize our human touch with the students, and just recognize this as a tool. Library services has changed dramatically over the last couple decades, and even here at MiraCosta, we're utilizing smart lockers and to deliver things to students, and we're embracing the technology, but we still have that one-on-one with the students that really means a lot to us as classified professionals, and we hope it means a lot to the students that we take the time to get to know their name and a little bit about them and help them while the technology is doing the work.
Right. And I was going to say, what I'll turn back right and end up where I was. The fact that you're just having this conversation alone today and that you have classified voice at the table is huge.
Yes.
I think it's so important, and being a community member here in North County and a student of this college, and I just feel so proud to see that there's representation from the classified staff on a day like today, because it's imperative. You cannot operate a school where students learn without somebody paying teachers, paying your staff, cleaning the restrooms,
Ordering the books.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Right?
Sure. Absolutely.
So, anyways.
Yeah. Let's talk about ethics and bias, and maybe Cornell, you might have some ideas about this. But how can classified professionals ensure that AI tools are used ethically and avoid perpetuating bias in decision making or student interactions? Because we at MiraCosta, of course, we spend a lot of time and effort trying to create a racially just campus. We value diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility very heavily. And so how do we keep that philosophy going, but being mindful of the ethics in using these tools?
Yes. So first, I think the basic thing is to understand bias in artificial intelligence. That's an important thing. What types of biases are there? So there can be, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, there can be data bias. The data may not reflect they may not be the correct information that is being fed into these learning systems. So the other one is the algorithmic bias. I may put if I'm the designer of the algorithm, if I'm the technical person that I'm writing this algorithm, so I may unconsciously or consciously, those biases may be implemented in that learning model,
Right.
for example, right? Then, of course, then there is the user bias. Sometimes it can be cultural too,
Yes.
because you do not know what based on the culture, it may have different meanings, connotations, and so forth for different things. So when you put all these things together, it's kind of important to understand what biases can be implemented in those learning models. The key thing is, again, as I think Susie and Jennifer mentioned this too, the inclusiveness, right? When you design a system, we need to make sure that the constituents are involved in that, making decisions, the right decision. Is this the right thing for us? Testing it. Are these the results that we are getting from this system? Does it really match our values, and is it accurate? So these are some of the things we really need to kind of think about as well. So, and you also mentioned about literacy training and workshops and so forth. All these things can kind of help in that area. Again, keeping an oversight on the mechanisms,
Right.
after you implement it, making sure that there is oversight on these systems as well. And, transparency is also very important, right? We want to
Absolutely.
make sure that this is what it is. And I think that will probably give us at least a reasonable model in terms of ethics and so forth.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, thank you. Feel free to jump in, although I did want to move to what skills or training might be necessary for classified professionals to effectively work alongside AI tools. But feel free to go back to any other comment you had about the last question.
Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to say, promoting a culture of having a feedback loop, right?
Yes.
You need a feedback loop so that when employees or students see that there's inherent bias in your chatbots and whatever you're using, whatever tools that you're using, they have a place to go to report those biases so that you can retrain whatever tool that you've created and or are using to know that that's there, right?
Sure.
And then and relaying that to your staff, that if you notice let's say in HR, if you notice certain applications seem to be coming through more than others, you feel safe telling whomever if it's the data department, that we need to recalibrate these data sets
Absolutely.
to be more reflective of our student population and our employee population.
Well, so that kind of segues into what skills or training might be necessary for classified professionals. So the ability to question what the AI models are doing and feeling safe as an employee to do that. I think that's that's a training piece to just reassure our colleagues that it's okay to speak out if you think that there's something wrong. But what other sorts of skills or training might be necessary for classified professionals to effectively work alongside these AI tools?
And just AI governance committees, okay? I think that's important. We got to start integrating AI committees in our participatory governance systems. So when it comes to like skill development, first of all, just understanding the basics of AI. Sometimes we got to start from the ground up, right? Making sure we're having workshops and conferences and things like that, and making sure that that we understand the process and how it works and how AI is actually how it can be integrated in our systems, how data sets work, things like that. So just AI literacy in general, right? And then starting, the automation part of it and things like Microsoft Copilot that integrates into Microsoft applications like Word and Outlook, and showing us how we can utilize that. And then obviously if colleges want to start, purchasing corporate level generative AI like ChatGPT, so we can start implementing that in our work, because like you mentioned, it's really important that the variety of ways you can use generative AI. I mean, it could be slides, it could be summarizing one of our many plans, because I think, community colleges love their 30, 50 page plans, summarizing, helping in that way. I mean, it could be as simple as creating a presentation, like you mentioned, or I'm just trying to think of all the ways that I've used it. Asking it like, hey, this is a new position. What would the budget look like for this kind of position? Or, I mean, it's unlimited what it could be used for. And sometimes it's really helpful in certain areas, and sometimes you kind of got to work that prompt to get what you need. I think it's important that we start kind of creating maybe places where you can actually work with AI and then get questions answered there as well. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's all I got.
Okay.
So I think you mentioned about training. I just want to let you know, for MiraCosta staff, we do have a sessions going on called AI Discovery Labs, hosted by Jim Julius
Sullivan,
and Professor Rick White.
Right.
Yeah, so basically, those are kind of important resources for us as well, for us here at MiraCosta as well. One of the other things I want to mention as well, there is an app for accessibility called IRA. So this is an AI app that is being designed by our at MiraCosta and integrated into an AI system, where the visually impaired can actually, on their phone, they can press a button and get directions from an interpreter how to. So that's an impressive thing that I saw recently as well.
Yeah. Accessibility, I think, is one of the largest issues around AI, because of being able to provide these tools for folks who may be visually impaired, hearing impaired. Well, and impaired is not the right word to use. I apologize for that. But just having tools that everyone can access, really. All right, well, let's move on to opportunities for growth. I'm going to pick on Cornell again. How can classified professionals use AI to provide more personalized services and support for students, particularly in advising or career services? And I think a lot of it has to do with data analysis, right? Because then it helps you pull out and create a caseload.
Yes. So again, once you have the data, it's really using that data in those AI systems, right? If you think about it now, if you have the data in terms of students, let's take academic advising, right? That's an area that we can do. So essentially, you can think about personalized degree planning. Hey, we have all these things. This is what you like to do. You have other data points and so forth, and then that also will kick in with progress tracking of the student, right? And kind of then also the AI systems can also do resource matching for these things. So all these functions can be integrated into AI systems. And I heard someone said last time, she wanted to take a nap. So just imagine, you can go and take a nap.
Yeah.
But also, I think that's important thing is really, I think, to have that interaction with the student with our values, right, Michelle, that
Right.
you mentioned. We always be based on their skill sets and so forth. And now we can even have mock interviews using AI systems, right?
Oh, yes.
So this has advanced over my time, right? So we can practice and go through different scenarios and improve, give these resources to students to really go and practice and go from there. The other thing is, what I was thinking was. It's also data-driven decision making for advisors. We talked about the trending and so forth.
Right.
And I did talk about, counseling and tutoring as well. That's something that we can implement in these areas as well, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of data analysis about our technology loans to students to make sure we're hitting the disproportionately impacted students, and I think part of that in RPI is probably has some AI help to pull out that data. And case management, getting students through the programs they want to get through most efficiently, and not advising them to take classes that they don't really need, and just making sure retention is a huge issue in our institutions, is making sure we keep the students here and keep them on track and get them the help and resources they need.
I did just want to add, just for the mock interviewing, make sure you're uploading the resume and the job description, because that's going to customize it. And that has been a great experience for a lot of people that have utilized it and then actually gone on a job interview. And they said it was like 3 or 4 were very similar based off what ChatGPT or whatever program they use came up with. So just
Interesting.
kind of a clarification.
Yeah, interesting.
And just for MiraCosta, if you go to the career services, I believe there's a web page.
Ingrid.
Right, and they have instructions how to use that as well.
That's
Thank you.
great. Yeah. Go ahead, Susie.
So I was just going to say also, this is the personalized support can be really imperative for our at-risk students too. So if you're noticing certain trends, you can utilize AI to notice certain trends in their patterns of attendance, right?
Sure.
And create interventions to get them back on track.
Absolutely.
So that's another benefit to staff and to students.
Yeah, and I
with
think our
AI.
care team does an excellent job with connecting students with resources who are having issues, whether it's housing insecurity or food insecurity or mental health services, and I think that's really important. And having the data gives us a picture that we can go and reach out to the student and spend more time with them rather than filling out forms and looking things up. If you have the data right in front of you, it's easier to see more students or spend more time with individual students.
And one more thing I just remembered
Sure.
as well. So just imagine a system where it says, give me all the students at Pell Grants for last semester, and what is the average grant that the students got. Just imagine, otherwise you had to go through spreadsheets, go through these things and so forth.
Right, sort things. And,
Sort
yeah.
things out. So these are amazing capabilities that are out there that we can envision, that we can use.
Sure. Well, let's move on to talking about professional development. Are there opportunities for classified professionals to lead AI initiatives on campus, and how could they advocate for their roles in shaping AI policies? Because we have a wide variety of classified professionals in all kinds of positions, and how can we advocate for our roles, no matter what our roles are, in shaping AI policy in our institution?
I will say for the opportunities, I mean, I in my bio it was mentioned that I was inspired by a conference, and it was the first time I really saw someone use generative AI and how like ideas on how to prompt and things like that. It was actually an HR representative, and I thought it was so interesting, and that kind of just propelled me into what I created for my PowerPoint, and then I presented it at my school, and then I just kind of became the AI person in my school because I'm like, again, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? I mean, tell me to stop. They haven't yet, so I'm just going
Right.
to continue. So one thing is that, like, if you're really interested, start just researching, start looking into it. Sign up for free training. I mean, there's free training everywhere, YouTube, whatever it may be.
There's a lot.
Start educating yourself first, because if something interests you, do it. And even if it doesn't, it's going to be important that you know the basics. So at least do that. Become an AI mentor. That's kind of what I've done. There's a few people that are just very nervous about it, and I actually meet with them separately to go over things to make them feel more comfortable. Some people just want to feel more comfortable in actually using AI, especially generative AI. I'm actually creating an AI bingo for April, or March or April, I haven't decided yet. But an AI bingo is a great way to kind of be interactive with the campus, and it's like very basic things to get people to use AI and become familiar with it, and have a little prize at the end depending on how many like little, things you get, like a blackout, you get all 9 or something like that. So think of fun ways to incorporate it in your college so that it feels more like, fun. Honestly, we're at work, but still sometimes we can have fun. So make it feel like more of oh, this is kind of a fun thing. This is not scary, because I do believe it's very much a tool. It's very much a starting point. It is not a scary thing. I just think with any new innovation, there's always those concerns, right? You could launch an AI learning group among classified, where you guys get together, and I think I had mentioned that before. Make sure to volunteer for any pilot programs, great opportunities. The committees, make sure to be a part of the committees. And when it comes to the advocating, again, you just need to make sure that you have a seat at the table. It's vital, because we know that we have invaluable resources, we have invaluable ideas, and that is the only way we're going to make sure that our part of the college operations is incorporated into our policies or into the data sets or whatever it may be, and hopefully more representative of students, because let's be honest, a lot of us are also the students of the college. We either we're students or even currently students at other things, so we're students as well. So we kind of know what some of the students want, and we talk to them all the time. So again, push to have that seat at that table.
Yeah, and I feel, again, I always say I feel lucky to work at MiraCosta, but look at how, our classified senate worked with faculty, and we have this day where we all get a chance to explore these ideas. And so I commend the classified senate, too, for advocating for us as classified professionals. And I think, it just shows that we are valued here and we have a place at the table. So what else might you want to add, Cornell or Susie? About advocating for your role in shaping AI policies, because you've done that in your district.
Yes, yeah. Don't be afraid to ask. I'll just say, when I decided that I'm visualizing here, I'm trying
Sure.
to go back in time. I equally had a similar experience where I went to a conference and I saw the power of AI in an innovation lab. And I knew that I had to go back and create something for the executive assistants and administrative assistants within my district, primarily because we didn't have any sort of training, a formalized training, and they individually would have to go advocate for that training. And so I got back feeling, one, very privileged that I got to go, but two, like, wow, this is such a great tool for all of us to be able to utilize. Mm-hmm. And there's an equity issue here, right? And so I love that you have an advocate for with the classified senate that could advocate for you, but don't forget to continue to do that if you're not feeling like maybe your department has the tools that they need, right?
Sure.
And just continue the conversation. So I came back from that conference and I said, we have to upskill our staff, and that we can use AI to do that. we're constantly being asked to do more with less resources.
True.
And the upskilling is a great solution for that. So, and they said, good stuff. Go ahead and do it.
That's great.
And that's what landed me here. But nonetheless, take every opportunity you have to join a work group. Don't be afraid to ask for that training. Maybe it's outside of MiraCosta. Ask for it. What's the worst they can say? No?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. It was a no if you didn't ask to.
That's true. Cornell, did you have something to add too?
Yeah, so one of the things is to echo what Susan said is that, I know there are lots of free tools that are there, but I think you mentioned formalized training. It's one of the success factors in the research that they are saying. Now, within MiraCosta, we have the Technology Advisory Committee.
Yes.
We have brought AI a few times in that, and
We
it's
have.
moving forward. So that is something, and don't be afraid to bring these things up into the Technology Advisory Committee, whether it's the Classified Senate folks or whoever.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are represented and you're heard. That's the key thing.
Yeah, and Cornell and I sit on that committee, and I encourage other classified professionals, if you have a chance to join the committee, you really learn a lot. I mean, I learned a lot about AI from a presentation you did there, Cornell, and we have a lot of great discussions. Jennifer, did you have something to add to that?
I wanted to mention, I agree with Susie that you push to do even formal training. I do it, and I probably get maybe a yes 40% of the time. But I always email, I'm like, totally okay if you say no. I know it's $2,500, but it doesn't hurt to ask, right? And they're like, yeah, no, nice try. But then the other things that are kind of cheaper, I usually get. But yes, please always ask, because again, I always do like a little paragraph of, remember, AI is the future. It's important. I'm a leader in it. See, I should go. Things like that. Just try it. Just try it, because you never know, your boss, however it works here, if he approves it. I mean, and it really does help doing those. And then some things I've paid for myself, because this to me is the future and I want to be a part of that.
Sure.
So, and that's completely up to you. That's a personal decision, but I want you to know that there's a lot out there when it comes to AI and conferences and training.
Well, we have another 3 or 4 questions. I want to be mindful of time. And are we getting questions on Teams? Okay, so I just wanted to see how many questions we're getting. So let's try and finish up a couple other planned questions here, and then we'll hear what someone out in the field wanted to know. So the future, we talked about this a little bit, I believe, in the first session, about decision-making and governance in our institutions, and what role can classified professionals play in the decision-making process around AI implementation and governance and related to governance.
I feel like I kind of covered it a little bit, but just mentioning that, again, push for regular audits. I think that kind of gets forgotten a little bit, and we're kind of used to that stuff. So make sure to push for audits when it comes to data sets and any kind of integration, and when it comes to, DEIA efforts within, AI and implementing it on the campus. Make sure to report any kind of discrepancies, gaps that you see, challenges, because if you're seeing it, your students are seeing it. So I just kind of wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd like to skip to our closing reflections, because there's a couple questions here that are really are topics that we really should take a quick dive into before we get to our questions from the audience. So balancing innovation and tradition. How do we strike a balance between leveraging AI for innovation while preserving the personal, human-centered ethics of community colleges? We kind of talked about still wanting to have that human touch. But how do we strike that balance without going too far in the direction where we're depersonalizing? This is for anyone.
So I guess it's your choice in what you do with the extra time, and if your institution really supports you and what you do with that free time. If you're going to utilize AI and streamline what you're doing, which gives you more time to do other things, are you just filling it with nuanced tasks, doing something else, right? Or are you doing something that is human-centered and is adding value to the relationships that you have at work? So I'm speaking from a classified perspective. And And that's, like what do I value at work? We're here more than we are at home with our families. So can we take that time that we got back? If you see my presentation later, you'll see that knowledge workers that utilize AI save 7.75 hours a week. So what could we do with an extra day? Could we improve company culture? Could we connect the way that we couldn't? Because over time, our desks have become bogged with stacks. I mean, that's just how it's kind of been, and it doesn't seem like we're trending that way. Those stacks are going away to let us, in my opinion, free up time to kind of make those human connections.
Well, and there's a wellness piece too, as
absolutely.
employees, is becoming more efficient and having time to even just wellness while you're working, Any other comments?
Yeah, I will kind of just add on that, again, how I see AI is kind of reducing that administrative burden in a lot of ways, and it really opens us up to more of that student engagement, that more involvement, right? Maybe even, not the right word, but advancing ourselves, making sure that we're growing along with our students. So that's how I see it. It's a time saver. And also it kind of levels the playing field when it comes to creativity. Not all of us are creative, and now we can actually do things that are a little more on the creative side. Not a lot of us are technical or maybe expert in Excel, and now it's something we can actually do because ChatGPT offers you great help when it comes to Excel. I know it's not my number one, but I'm okay with it. I dabble, but it has helped me kind of look better than what I actually am. But then I'm learning at the same time. Think about it. You're reading a book, you're learning, right? I'm reading what ChatGPT gave me. Oh, I learned something today. So just think of it that way. It's a learning tool, and it's taking away certain parts of our jobs that allow us to get more involved, to allow us to spend more time with students.
Cornell?
Yeah, so I think also it's important to keep the focus on student success and equity as well.
Yes.
So that is important because we can have programs for personalized learning and equitable AI use and so forth. And also as I think Susan, you mentioned that we are here to do not use AI to replace human interaction.
Right.
That is something I think from a technology perspective, I understand that because we can get carried away. Oh yes, we can do this, but at the same time, focus on human interaction, with the others. It's a very important thing.
Absolutely. Well, our final question, and then we'll get to questions from the audience, is let's talk about the future. So we are, of course, future-oriented here at MiraCosta. A lot of us have done the futures training and the signal spotters. And so we've been asked at some point, what is MiraCosta going to look like at our 100th birthday? What is it going to look like, in 30 years? So let's talk about ways we envision AI transforming our environment in community colleges over the next 5 to 10 years, and how do classified professionals fit into that picture?
It's kind of hard to say. This question I struggled with because I think the way we're going to operate is going to be completely different in 5 or 10 years. It's all the things I mentioned, right? Automation, more student engagement when it comes to things that matter compared to just the basic questions that anybody can answer, right? That kind of 24-hour support, right? That chatbots provide, which is great. So the more we advance those, even better for students that maybe don't have transportation and can't come to the college and talk to someone, or calling on a phone and not getting an answer they want. So there's a lot of things that with the integration that it's going to improve the way we communicate with our students. But I see it completely changing the way we function because it's going to take all those little small tasks again and create it and make them something that we do on the background that's easy, and we're going to be so much more involved, and I think part of more conversations where I know at my college we struggle to participate because we just have to be at the desk. We don't want to miss a student's inquiry. We don't want to miss something like then we're like, oh, we're going to sign up for all this training and all this Zoom training. Yeah, I don't go to those. I never end up going to those. Think of all that time saved and how much more involved you could be with the college. I mean, you almost, you feel like it's like you're part of the people again, you know, because I feel like sometimes we're a little bit in the background, kind of keeping the college going, and everybody else gets to experience all that training and that nuanced, you know, talk, you know, even just discussions, having a discussion, right? When we used to have a water cooler, all those things kind of come back, and I think the way we do our jobs is going to be different. It's going to be high level. It's going to be strategic and things like that. So I struggled with what it would look like. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I think will change, but I think it's going to be for the better because, again, that example of the calculator. Oh, no, that's the end of math teachers and that's the end of math. And
Right.
that's not what happened, right?
Right.
And that happens with any innovation. And I think we'll be a lot more comfortable and it'll be a part of our daily lives.
Sure. Yeah. Susie.
Yeah, I was going to say we need to reflect on just what's happened in the last year. You know, if like trying to look out 5 to 10 years, I struggled also because I was like, it from being scared to even like talk about it maybe like 2 years ago to where we are now, where most of us are embracing it or at least have like a general, we're easing, we're getting more comfortable with it.
Right.
Right. But I just think being fluid and being open-minded about the various stages that we're going to go through as it changes and evolves, right? That's going to be what helps us change and evolve in our roles too, as the technology gets better, as the institution aligns with what they want their focus to be with AI. I think that being able to be adaptable and flexible as it changes will help us in the next 5 to 10 years. But what it'll actually look like is so hard to say because of how much it's transformed just in the last year and a half, I'd say.
Yeah, we'll look at, you know, the evolution of these computers that we carry around with us all day, you know, how quickly that came upon us.
Yeah, because we were never going to have a calculator in the back of our pocket every day, right?
That's right, that's right. And, you know, we don't have the computer that fills up this whole stage, you know, with, 16 megabytes of memory. Yeah. Cornell, do you have any final thoughts about the future of AI? And then we'll go to our audience questions.
So I think in conclusion, I think we have a role to play as agents to adopt and to help our community of students. I think that is the key thing, and to understand how we can help the students, keeping the student in mind, right? That's our goal. And how a technology like AI can integrate into our workflows and see what we can do to really get that extra time so that we have those human interactions. Yeah, I think that's my theme pretty much.
I think
about a lot.
students first, which is how we all operate here anyway. But you know, keeping that, looking at that lens of what's best for our students. Joanne, what kind of question do we have from online folks?
So I had one comment, and then she had a question too. So she said,
Can you say it on the microphone, please?
like,
Yep, there you go, microphone.
hello, it's Friday.
Yes.
Okay, so this is from Eiley Lopez. She is our scheduler. She uses a lot of the technology.
Yes.
We can't live without her. Shout out Eiley.
Yes, Eiley.
So she said, I think a comment needs to be made that there are a lot of it could ideas being thrown out. Beyond individual personal use, our college systems are not prepared and our tech staff do not have capacity to implement and support our staff in executing these ideas. These ideas should encourage additional investment in utilizing these technologies. And then she said, also, please ask Cornell, can you speak to what student data can and can't be entered into AI chats today when assisting with daily work? I hope he reminds everyone not to go back to their desk and enter student PII into the chats. I don't know what that
Good
is.
comment. Cornell?
Very good comment. You know, when it comes to data security and protection, because FERPA has a firm, it's very strict, and we need to follow FERPA no matter what. So my thing is, I'm envisioning, okay? I'm envisioning a system that if you can classify data as sensitive, before it goes into a system, can it detect and redact, if we can, that information? Now that's again, it's up to be seen. I don't think we have the technology yet. As a matter of fact, I did that, I think it was this week. I asked Microsoft Copilot, what if I provide you with sensitive information? Would you really detect and send it back to me saying that this is sensitive information, for example, like a social security number, grade, whatever, right? So there are systems that I have worked in before, at least for the payment card industry for credit cards. It detects certain numbers. There is some AI in that, because before it gets sent out to other areas, it detects that and says, hey, this is a record that has sensitive information, and it can stop it. But we are at the very infancy of all these new technologies that we are talking about. That's why we'd love to see, as I said in my earlier comment, when you talk about narrow intelligence. So we are still working with the boundaries of what we can do and what we cannot do right now.
Thank you.
What did Microsoft Copilot say when you asked that question?
It told me to go and take a look at their privacy terms. Gave me the link.
And then it suggested a movie on Netflix for the night. Do we have any questions from the audience here? Can somebody walk around with the mic? Okay.
Yeah, we have about 70 viewers online that need to hear.
Oh yeah, and we have about 4 minutes before lunch, so we should be okay here in getting through the audience questions.
I feel like Phil Donahue. If
Yes,
you're
you are.
old enough to
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
Mine's kind of a two-parter, but if you could only do one, out of fairness, I totally understand. Somebody mentioned, I think both of you might have mentioned calendars or calendaring, and I'm really curious, especially, I think you mentioned being able to calendar across the board, and I do a lot of calendaring. So what is it that you use for that? Was there a certain program or?
So that's not something I've used yet because it's not nothing's been integrated in our systems.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just things that I've researched. So nothing I've actually used yet. Have
Okay.
you been able?
Yeah, there's a couple platforms. There's Clockwise is a big one that I saw at the Innovation Hub at my conference, and then I actually got to know Hefa from EA Buddy, which that's actually turned into a different name now, and I don't know the name of that. But what I found helpful and useful in my role is that, and as I mentioned before, instead of me being the robot that goes and looks for all these times, what those platforms will do is you can tell it a prompt. I need a meeting time for 30 minutes. And if you have all the executives listed for these 2 or 3 executives, and find me a date before, the end of the month, right? It will go scan all of that. So you're not using your eyeballs to find it and your precious time to find those things anymore, or sending out doodle polls or whatever. It's
yeah.
gonna go grab all that information, and it'll plop it right on a clipboard so you can copy paste it and not type it out.
That's great.
It looks at the calendar. It goes through.
So it goes through your Outlook.
It'll go through. You sync it with that, and it'll go through the calendar, look for those, grab those times, bring it back, and then you need the human in the loop, right? I need to go look at it and say, oh, that's a vacation day, that's a holiday, right? So you have to have the human in the loop because it'll bring you back a bunch of times for that holiday, right? Unless you have it marked off on the calendar somehow. But then it'll add it to the clipboard and you copy paste. I'm not spending my time writing that out for 10 executives.
We'd probably have to talk to ITS about integrating that, because it has to allow Outlook to be looked at. So yeah.
Microsoft and Outlook.
Yeah.
And then the other quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned customizing emails.
Well, I mean, really, it comes down to one, Copilot can do that if it's integrated into your systems, or the other one is customizing. I'm saying literally just start it in the application, or copying and pasting as long as it's not sensitive information, and suggesting a reply into like a generative AI. So that's how I've used it. We also don't have Copilot integrated yet. I think I've heard yes, maybe no here, but I know that also works there. So I'm a little behind because nothing has been integrated, and I can't really buy it by myself. So yeah, I'm just researching at this point.
I think we
Just
have time
just
for...
a heads up, as a part of our district license, we do have Copilot.
Yes.
So just want to let you know.
So one last question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right here. Is it on? Okay. So I think the point that Eileen made in the question through Joanne is really important about capacity. Because what I was also hearing, and I heard a few of you mention, is like you have to work at it until you get it to do what it is that you want it to do.
Yes.
And so I'm curious how you've balanced that, because just because you want to learn this new tool that can effectively change time, save you time, the amount of time that I'm assuming you've also had to dedicate to figure all that out while you still need to get everything else done, I think that's a huge challenge. And I think the point is well taken that there is a lot of like, well, this could do that and this could do this. And believe me, I use it in my personal life because I know how to use it effectively for the things I need it to do. But the amount of time that you would need to dedicate to make your work more simple, how do you balance that with getting everything else you still need to get done?
Well, I can tell you that maybe in the beginning it takes a little time, but as you learn how to prompt correctly, it takes no time at all. So it really it's in the beginning. Just like when you learn anything, you're a little slower, and then you becoming a lot faster at it because you've done it so many times.
Sure. Quick answer, and then we will conclude. Or okay. Well, I want to thank Cornell, Jennifer, and Susie for meeting with us today and answering all these fantastic questions. And I appreciate everyone in attendance. And I'm just again so grateful that we were able to have this time together. So thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch and the afternoon sessions.